Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on. We're going to begin with the K-Trail maneuvers. I think now they should be uploaded to the event page too, so if you're joining us online, I think you can download a copy of the opening and closing prayers from the website. On the event page for this event. Starting with the Mahamudra lineage prayer. Oje shanchen delo na rodam mabamina shuche kamo drusam cheja kuken kamapa Chichi Shunge Rupa Zena Kita Sasu Adendru Aso Zanam Jagya Chena Name Rokunda Okajuna Soade Sokajuna Yuazino Nanka Jinyo Shino Kongi Kampa Sumashi Zeno Kula Chashin Mepana Zedir Tota Chupi Kunchen Eko Shempa Repa Jinjiro Guru Kongi Sumashi Nena Teo Jebe Namana Yudu Soa Lepe Gonchen Jerome Moru Kewa Jinjela Yeme Gonjin Song Song Kamsha Topen Ho Somade Majureka Jope Gonchela Gonjarodam Jawajila Ando Chuku Excuse me, I'm a little sniffy. I have a bit of cold. So, good morning, everyone. As we discussed yesterday, before engaging in Dharma activity, it is very important to establish the proper motivation, and that is the vast motivation of bodhicitta. So please think, all sentient beings without exception have been like kind parents. These parents long for happiness, but do not know how to engage in the causes of happiness. They do not want to suffer, but they do not know how to abandon the causes of suffering. In order to free them from this cycle of suffering, I will now listen to the sacred Dharma in order to accomplish their benefit. I will do this for all sentient beings, my kind parents, and establish every one of them at the state of a fully enlightened Buddha. When listening to Dharma, please maintain the proper conduct, which is to be actively interested, appreciative, and happy to receiving Dharma teachings, to be fully attentive and undistracted so that you don't forget the teachings you receive, and to maintain a clear, calm, and open mind when listening so that negative states of mind or unworthy motivations do not corrupt the teachings. Excellent. So now that we have established the proper motivation and conduct, we can begin. Hello and good morning, everybody. We are meeting again to continue discussing how we can encourage ourselves in Dharma practice. So there's a new handout for today. There's one, I hope there are enough copies for everybody. There's one extra one over there. If any, does everyone have one? Yeah. You okay? Okay, good. Okay, great. And for those online, there should be a new handout for today's Sunday. So if you take a look at today's handout, you'll see the outline. Yesterday, we discussed how to set the right intention for our practice, which entailed understanding that all beings have been, are currently, or will be, our kind parents, and that it is for their benefit and our own benefit to practice the Dhamma to attain Buddhahood, so as to establish them all in Buddhahood. We also discussed the importance of compassion, bodhicitta, and meditation that brings about wisdom. Then we discussed how to cultivate good habits, even if we are very busy, such as observing our minds and correcting our behavior. And we also took part in a very brief formal daily practice that took only 10 minutes. So hopefully some of that can help support our practice. Today, we're going to continue with our outline to the third topic, relying on inspiring examples. Is that right? Yes, we are. Relying on inspiring examples. Expectation is a word that came up yesterday. We discussed how having certain expectations can frustrate what might otherwise need not be a frustrating situation. Sometimes we expect too much of ourselves. Sometimes we expect things of others that are not fair to expect of them. I think everyone will be quiet. In Joyful Wisdom by Yiri Rinpoche, he shares a story that demonstrates what he calls a tragic aspect of the human condition that hinges upon expectation. He recounts an event that took place in a wax museum. Not long ago, I visited a wax museum in Paris where I saw a very lifelike statue of the Dalai Lama. I examined it carefully from all angles, since His Holiness is a person I know fairly well. As I stood to the side looking at the figure, a young man and woman walked up. The woman knelt down between His Holiness and me, while her companion aimed his camera for a picture. Not wanting to get in the way, I started to step aside, at which point the woman screamed, and the man with the camera dropped his jaw almost to the ground. Because the light in the museum was rather dim, they thought I was part of the display, a wax figure of a happy little monk standing beside the Dalai Lama. Once the couple recovered from the shock of seeing what appeared to be a wax statue suddenly springing to life, we all had a nice laugh together and parted company on a very pleasant note. But as I continued on through the museum, it occurred to me how that brief encounter had exposed, on a small scale, a larger and fundamentally tragic aspect of the human condition. The young couple had approached the wax museum display with such a clear, strong set of expectations, never considering the possibility that the actual situation might be otherwise than they assumed. In the same way, most people, encumbered by all sorts of preconceptions and beliefs, remain ignorant of the fundamental facts of human life, what my teachers call the basic situation. To understand what that situation is, we need to look at the very first teachings the Buddha gave after he attained what is often referred to as enlightenment, a term that can sound a bit grand, beyond the capacity of most people. Actually, enlightenment is quite simple. Think of it in terms of habitually walking through a dark room bumping into tables, chairs, and other bits of furniture. One day, by luck or accident, we brush against a switch or button that turns on a light. Suddenly, we see all the room, all the furniture in it, the walls and the rugs, and think, look at all this stuff here. No wonder I kept bumping into things. And as we look at all this stuff, perhaps with a sense of wonder at seeing it for the first time, we realize that the light switch was always there. We just didn't know it. Or maybe we just didn't think about the possibility that the room could be anything but dark. That's one way to describe enlightenment. Turning on the light in a room we've spent most of our lives navigating in the dark. Perhaps the most remarkable achievement of the Buddha is his delivery of the message that we've become so used to walking in the dark that we've forgotten how to turn on the light. In other words, we've become so habituated to living in confusion and delusion that we can't imagine how we could be any different. We accept the status quo without question. Or, as Venerable Barbara Rinpoche once taught, we are just surviving. But do we want to just survive? Can't we do any better than that? Wouldn't we like to thrive? So, I'm curious, what do you all think of this notion that our expectation of the best possible situation is in fact quite limited? Why do you think we accept just surviving? Oh, and people online can also feel free to respond. Again, the question is, what do you all think of this notion that our expectation of the best possible situation is in fact quite limited? And why do you think we accept that?
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much, Jimmy. You know, actually, for quite a long time, I've been working on not expecting, because there are too many things involved with any particular thing that you might want to hope for. You know, I will say that, yeah, actually being involved here with this Buddhist Center has helped me to let go of what I think is expectation, because my mind of expectation might be much lower, actually, than what is actually happening. And I'm not sure I answered your question, but that's pretty much all I have to say about it.
That's good.
I think in my case, it's not having had examples, cultural stuff, encouragement. It's been, I think you just get into habits and they rut you out, you know? It's you have to, again, like rocket ships have to break this gravitational pull in order to get higher. I think there's like something like that. Like I wonder sometimes if my house doesn't have a gravitational field that makes it difficult to leave. Or Santa Fe is sometimes called the land of entrapment. It's known on the license plates as the land of enchantment. And it is enchanting, but people that have lived there for a long time and want to leave, they can't. It's very curious, and we've nicknamed it the land of entrapment. But there is thing, I think that objects have, that situations have, and it's sort of like a force field that draws you to it. I just think it's like like an Einsteinian, one of the constants of electromagnetism or something. It's strange, but I think there's almost like a physical quality to habit and to sort of regular, repeating the same thing, not jumping over. Anyway.
Thank you, that's a great insight.
Thank you. What Roland said, I also shared when you were talking about the story that Ninja was saying about people's expectations. I think it's also that maybe it's that idea of inertia. How when we get habituated to something, it becomes something that's comfortable, but also something that's knowable. So I know, like for example, when I used to go swimming in deep water, I used to be really scared because I didn't know where the bottom was or how far down I could go. And also the idea or the concept and also the experience I had of animals that live in cages. Like their cage becomes a structure that they're familiar with, but it's also, to us, it's kind of a sense of containment, but it gives them a sense of security. So I think we have those cages around us, and if those are taken away, or if it was suggested they be taken away, then it's kind of scary, because you don't know where or how far or what's new and what's changing, and it just kind of pulls the rug out of under your expectations, so you don't know where the floor is or where the walls are. And I know, like generally for people, let's say for blind people that I've worked with to help them, they're always trying, when they enter a room, they know by hearing the sound bouncing off the walls where they are. Otherwise, they wouldn't have any reference to stand or know how far to go before they run into something. So I think we all generally have to know, to some degree, feel comfortable where the boundaries are for whatever we're dealing with, whether it's like, I don't know, what kind of boundaries, physical boundaries or non-physical boundaries. So.
Thank you. Yeah, it seems like boundaries make us feel comfortable, actually.
Yeah. Woomy.
Was that?
Woomy.
Woomy. Yeah.
Woomy.
I'm hearing things like fear of change, fear of the unknown, even if there's a better option, being unwilling to pursue it.
Scary.
Due to fear. Yeah, because you never know. It's like, well, at least we know what we know, and if we try to change it, then who knows what it could be. And so the fear kind of outweighs the potential benefit, unfortunately. Yeah, so we see that on a micro scale every day in the choices we make, that we choose to do things that are familiar. It's like maybe we like to go to one park, but we hear there's a nicer park, but we've never been there, and we're kind of used to going to the one we know, and we know the path, and it's just simple things like that we do every day. But if we look at that on if we put that into a spiritual perspective of our practice, we do the same thing. We're comfortable with the spiritual practice we do. We're comfortable with the kind of like the results that we see. We're used to our routines. And so that the habit of doing what is familiar becomes an obstacle as well. So that's kind of what Mihirach's story shows us, that sometimes we are habituated to thinking a particular way, and then we expect that it should be that way. And they were kind of rudely awakened. But I guess that's kind of what we all need. We all need to be a little rudely awakened or snapped out of our habits.
My well went dry yesterday. I have no running water.
That's new.
Yeah, I mean, that was a change of, I was expecting to
Right.
turn on the water.
Yeah.
Didn't turn on. I was hit by lightning and it shook, I think it cracked open.
Do you
The,
want the mic?
no, but that, so it's the end of expectation.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all.
Yeah.
So, in order to attain enlightenment, we must first have the notion of enlightenment. For example, it's like deciding that you want to go somewhere, like New York City. If you have no intention of going to New York City, it's very unlikely that you will get there. But if you decide that you want to go there, you can eventually get yourself there. Depending on your method of travel, it could take years or days, hours, or even minutes. Likewise, we must first decide that we want to begin our journey to enlightenment. Consider this. We have lived countless lives doing everything but attaining enlightenment. Now in this life, if we become interested in the possibility, that is good. If we decide that attaining enlightenment is something we'd like to do, and we set the intention to do it, that is very good. Then, if we steadily work with our mind to reach that goal, that is wonderful. If we continue to do that, we will eventually reach our goal, which would be the greatest thing ever. Therefore, even one small step in the right direction is significant. I'd like to share a quote from His Eminence Taisaguru Rinpoche, drawn from a video teaching he gave entitled A Meaningful Life. It's also in the handout if you'd like to follow along. It's on the second page. And by the way, please do treat these handouts respectfully, especially this one, since there's an image of His Eminence. Please don't leave it on the ground or step on it or tread on it.
Is this okay?
That's okay, just like not directly
Right
on the ground. It's just a note about Dharma objects. So, in his teaching, Rinpoche says, we are born as a human being, which is pretty good. And if before we die, we are not able to progress any further, then that is not very good, not a very meaningful life. But even if we don't progress as such, but if we did not degenerate, then we should consider it not too bad. My ambition is, from birth to death, I want to improve by 1%. That is my ambition. And to improve in everything. Improve in knowledge, improve in experience, improve in wisdom, improve in realization, in everything. Then, in 100 lives, I will be Buddha. You know? So, that would be quite a shortcut. And in 100 lives, I can be Buddha, and each life would be 1% better. Then, I'll go for it. I will go for it. So, my humble definition of a meaningful life is, we become 1% more kind, 1% more compassionate, 1% more wise, 1% more enlightened, 1% deeper realization, so everything increases by 1%. Then, if that is the case, I will call that a meaningful life. As you may or may not know, His Eminence Rinpoche is a most eminent and learned teacher who is also believed to become the next returning Buddha that will take birth on this planet, Buddha Maitreya. And if he says that in each life, a 1% improvement in our good qualities qualifies as a meaningful life, then I take him seriously. So, there's no need to stress out. A little bit will go a long way. After all, all we have is time. So steadily making improvements will get us there. Just like each step towards New York City will get us closer to the destination. And I wanted to mention something that might sound like a contradiction in my saying, after all we have is time. But then sometimes we receive the message that we have very little time and that life is very short and very precious, and we should therefore throw ourselves into practice. The truth is, both arguments are true. That the time that we have in this life, in this body, as ourselves, is very limited, and so we shouldn't waste that time. But another truth is that until we attain enlightenment, all that's going to happen is that we keep taking births. So the other reality is that all we have is time. However, the important thing is that we want to make sure that we're living decent enough lives and making the aspirations to meet with the Buddha Dharma in every life, so that when we take a new life, we are in relation somehow to the Dharma and we can continue our Dharma practice. If we don't do that and instead we engage in lots of bad behaviors, then not only does the current fortunate life you have end, you're not setting up the factors to attain a fortunate life in the future. In which case, that wouldn't be good. You would kind of be losing the opportunity and not making it possible for it to arise again. But if you do the best practice you can do, then you're using that life to the best of your ability, and you're also setting up the causes to be able to continue at the same level. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, just want to clarify that, because it might sound like, why are there two contradicting messages? Yeah. Yesterday, I meant to say this after we completed the short daily practice, but I think it's relevant now as well. In terms of practice, it's important to be steady and stay positive. It's recommended to engage in short practices regularly, at least when you're beginning your practice. But this is good advice all the time. That way, we create a good habit. After closing our session, we should feel glad that we engaged in practice. We can think to ourselves something like, good job, I did something good today. We should feel nourished by our practice and want to do it again. That is very important. We always want to end our practice on the good note. If we struggle to do lots of practice and feel burnt out and have a bad feeling afterward, that's not very good. That's counterproductive. We should adjust our practice to what is suitable for us. That way, we can continue to develop at a healthy pace. Naturally, our capacity to practice will increase, and when it does, we can make new adjustments. Kind of like introducing food to a baby. At first, very little and very soft, but eventually, they'll be strong enough to eat anything. In this spirit, I created a very simple diagram I call the Wheel of Self-Propelled Improvement, which you can find in your handout. There you'll see a wheel that begins with doing my best, which leads to the feeling of being happy with myself. When I'm happy with myself, I easily get better, and I find that I have achieved a new and improved doing my best. Plus, some important remembrances, like our best can always get better. Essentially, I just want to focus on the goodness, be grateful for the good I'm doing, and allow myself to comfortably develop at my own pace. I think that's nice. So, what do you all think of this? Do you think these instructions, which are very simple, can help? Yeah, Matt.
So I think,
You might want to wait for the mic. Sorry.
so in my like personal experience, I was always, I was born primarily in American culture. And I guess the main thing and the main driving ambition is to succeed, right? You keep on doing this over and over and over until you succeed. You cannot fail at it. It's like, there's no failure, you know? So you have this whole like hell bent, or at least I did have this whole just same fixation on just getting the results. So you keep on going for the results. And at first, I applied that. I don't have much time to practice, but at the very, very beginning, I did that. And I realized like it's not really about that, and it's like I really, really like your advice about just doing your best and happy with yourself and getting better, and not like just like obsessing, like I will get better, this, and that, but also like the letting go as well. I think this is really good advice, especially for like, people like us who are really hard on themselves and they just are all about, success and this and that, because if we're able to at least practice, then we've done something good already. And by doing that over, we're habituating that, how really important it is. It's just positive karmic habits.
Thank you. Yeah, for sure. In the US, there is that push to be very ambitious. People are always talking about success, which usually they mean monetary success. And yeah, then it's no wonder that we apply this approach to when we do Dharma practice, right? More, better, more accumulation, more time spent meditating, and that kind of like go broke attitude. But as you said, at some point, hopefully, maybe we discover that that's not really the point. It's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. If you're accumulating lots of mantra, but you're completely distracted, then there's no benefit. Then honestly, it's a waste of time. Right? So if you're too focused on that, the quantity or the get more aspect, you're going to undermine the purpose of why you're doing the practice in the first place. So it's good to recognize that. Yes. With Dharma practice, I think it's you can't try to cheat your practice, right? It has to be genuine, and so you have to do the things that genuinely better your mind. Make you a better person, make you kinder, make you more patient, make you more wise. That's the point. And so it's hard to say what someone has to do to attain those results. It depends on each person. And it might not be an obsessive approach. It might be a more calm, long, big picture type of approach. It's a long way, it could be a very long way to Buddhahood. So it's not a race, it's a marathon or something, maybe think of it that way. It's about pacing yourself and being balanced and being relaxed. That'll be a much nicer way to go about it, I think.
Oh, someone has a question.
Do you want the mic?
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt. Matt is just, he's gonna read if anybody leaves a question online. I didn't want to neglect that as well.
So, somebody asked.
Is it picking up?
No.
Somebody asked, Dear Lama, is there a connection between bodhicitta and encouraging?
Sure, you could just call me Chime. I'm not alone. Is there any connection between bodhicitta and encouragement? Yes. I mean, I think bodhicitta itself is extremely encouraging. It's one of the most encouraging kind of feelings we can give rise to. That we want to become the best that we can be, and that we want to help others do that. I think that's very, very encouraging, and a type of encouragement that kind of is limitless. It has no end. It's not just today or tomorrow or 1 year or 1 week. It's not about attaining an award or some type of title or something. It's really wide scale view. So I think that's encouraging.
And that helps people get out of habits.
Yeah.
Because they have encouragement and an example from you and your effort. And then you get moving,
Mm-hmm.
and then they get moving,
Mm-hmm.
because they see that it can be done.
Mm-hmm.
It's like mirroring. Human beings mirror all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see that more and more with Sola.
Mm-hmm.
She'll mirror it, it's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're around people that are sort of habituated to behavior, we're gonna mirror that. If we're around people that are always kind of what's around the corner, we'll be looking.
Right, and that's why I think I wanted to pay attention to that topic and having it be one of the major topics for this weekend, the inspiring examples. Because we need to rely on inspiring examples, because we want to see people who are doing better than ourselves so that we could do as well as them. Of course, the Buddha is an incredible, inspiring example, but then many of his disciples are inspiring as well. And we can learn a lot from their experiences, their stories, advice, the prayers that they've written, all of that. And that kind of ties into a little bit about the comment I made yesterday about the fact that we as Westerners are raised in a very different context that doesn't have a lot of these inspiring Dharmic examples. And so we do have to kind of borrow a lot of these wonderful examples from other cultures. And we can do that, and that's great. And I think that it's very beneficial to do that. All right, thank you. In terms of good examples, there are many. However, one very famous example is the dedication that Shantideva makes at the end of his aspiration prayer, taking hold of bodhicitta. And you can find it in your handout. This is an abridged presentation of the dedication part of this longer prayer. So, here it goes. In his dedication, Shantideva prays, "Through these actions now performed, and all the virtues I have gained, may all the pain of every living being be wholly scattered and destroyed. For all those ailing in the world, until their every sickness has been healed, may I myself become for them the doctor, nurse, the medicine itself. Raining down a flood of food and drink, may I dispel the ills of thirst and famine, and in the eons marked by scarcity and want, may I myself appear as drink and sustenance. For sentient beings poor and destitute, may I become a treasure ever plentiful, and lie before them closely in their reach, a very source of all that they might need. May I be a guard for those who are protectorless, a guide for those who journey on the road. For those who wish to cross the water, may I be a boat, a raft, a bridge. Thus, for everything that lives, as far as are the limits of the sky, may I be constantly their source of livelihood, until they pass beyond all sorrow." So here we see Shantideva wishing to benefit beings beyond the physical human body he possesses. He prays to become medicine, food, and a boat. Whatever beings need, he wishes to be. There is the belief that everything good we experience is due to the kindness of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Shantideva's prayer demonstrates how that could actually be. The aspiration prayers of our enlightened teachers are very powerful. As I mentioned yesterday, even if we are not capable of following them ourselves right now, We can look to them as our examples and guides. We can certainly pray to develop the courage and selflessness that our teachers possess. For example, there is a remarkable verse in the 37 Practices of Bodhisattva, which is also in the handout, and it goes like this. Even if others cut off my head when I haven't done the slightest wrong, taking upon myself their misdeeds through the power of compassion is the Bodhisattva's practice. Luckily for us, Bharata Rinpoche provided a commentary on this verse in Living in Compassion. And he states, the 13th stanza deals with how to take suffering onto the path. Here, this refers to the suffering born of someone else's abuse, specifically extreme physical abuse. The situation described here is an extreme one, to show how far bodhisattvas will go. In this situation, the bodhisattva has done nothing negative whatsoever to the aggressor that justifies their abuse. Nevertheless, that person not only mutilates him or her by cutting off their arms and legs and so on, but cuts off the best of their limbs, the head. Even though they are killing you, a bodhisattva would not respond in turn by kicking or striking them, but would be concerned with the wrongdoing and negative karma that person was accumulating, because they know that killing will cause the other to be reborn in hell. And when they get out of the hell realms, they will have a short life and a liking for killing. And so they will kill again, and the cycle will continue over and over. A bodhisattva would not be thinking about his or her personal suffering, but about how much suffering the murderer was accruing through perpetrating violence. Therefore, through great compassion, a bodhisattva would wish to experience this suffering in their stead and would attempt to take that person's wrongdoing onto themselves. That is how bodhisattvas take the suffering of physical abuse onto the path. I think someone who can do this has really perfected their compassion. It is extremely strong, unbreakably strong. Their understanding of cause and effect, or in other words, what is really happening and what will take place due to it, provides them with the wisdom to know that the really horrible thing happening is not their own death, but the misdeed of the murderer and what they will suffer due to it. For that bodhisattva, their death will take place one time, and they won't accrue negative karma due to it. In fact, they're taking their own murder onto the path to practice compassion for the murderer, so it actually becomes a positive event for them. However, for the murderer, they are engaging in anger and violence that will only beget deeper delusion and suffering. So, even though we may never find ourselves in this particular situation, to take our suffering onto the path. In other words, to use apparent undesirable experiences as a means to deepen our good qualities, like compassion, patience, equanimity, and so forth. Maybe we should take a moment to reflect on our lives and think about whether we have been missing some good opportunities to take suffering onto the path. Any thoughts?
Is that like Jesus? On the cross, taking people's suffering?
That sounds like it.
Doesn't it?
Sure. Well, many people think that Jesus was a bodhisattva.
Oh, well, Okay, so, that's the story,
Yeah,
and it matches.
yeah. But what about ourselves? How can we apply this so that we can,
Okay, let's say that I had a previous lifetime where I was decapitated. Because of a certain cultural change that I was involved in. And I was an innocent, completely, victim. In this lifetime, if I've been granted the vision of that previous lifetime, how can I help the people who were involved in that violence 1,000 years ago with their journey, with their improvement?
I would say prayer. Praying for them, praying that they're able to change their behavior so that they're no longer suffering from anger or misunderstanding, so that they become peaceful, so that they engage in virtue, so that they meet with the Dharma, or at least people who can teach them good habits. And then it is good to pray that they can meet with the Dharma and practice and become more virtuous people. Yeah, to not, yeah.
Sort of envision the situation and perhaps the people, or sort of the shimmer of the people, and just project prayer
Yeah, you could always do that.
backwards, because they say there's no time.
Sure. That's an interesting hypothetical example.
Good.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
There's so much richness that you have been sharing with us. It's hard to kind of go pinpoint. But I think for me, I need to bring about not just the compassion and understanding and wanting to help someone, but also wisdom. Because I have in my personal life experienced what they call codependency, where either I have been too helpful to someone, they did not learn for themselves what their potential is because I was doing it for them, or I have taken advantage of someone who was very kind to me. Maybe it wasn't genuine, but still, it was very kind. And all of a sudden kind of got upset. And so for me, it's wisdom. I really believe, even in some of the books, like I've read about the great masters, they seem to know exactly how much help they can give someone. And it's really tricky. I think it's very tricky. And that's why, for me, I'm extremely happy to have an example, like your father, like the lamas here, like you saw, like, there are also, I think other examples, so that I can see, okay, maybe in this case, to help this person, it's best just to pray and not necessarily try to suggest things to them because they're not ready to hear. It's a very, very tricky thing, and all I can say is that I'm really happy I'm here, so I can learn more about it, and so learn to do it with not just compassion and wanting to help someone, but also with wisdom. And I have to also say that the practice, one of the things in the Shinrezi practice, when your dad and mama, yes, you were teaching that, was saying, well, you get all in vision, Shinrezi, you do this very beautiful thing. And then he reminds us, or me, anyway, in the practice, he reminds that we ourselves are not capable, really, of doing these wonderful things. What that Shinrezi is. And so that to, in a sense, forget ourselves and just go into the deity, and go into the nature. And it doesn't also mean that nature isn't within us as well. And so I guess every time we do that, that nature wakes up a little bit more within us. Maybe if we're lucky, 1%. I don't know. So I'm not quite sure. You're bringing up such jewels in so many things. That's just one comment. Many that maybe someone else would like to comment. Are you, Teresa?
Well, thank you for that comment. I think you're really right that although we have the wish to help others, sometimes we're not sure the best way to do that. And we're trying to cultivate wisdom, but maybe we haven't cultivated that much. So it's a little bit tricky, knowing what's the right way to try to help others. I think you can never go wrong with feeling the wish to help others, feeling the wish that others be relieved of their suffering, whatever's causing them suffering, and praying that it will be relieved. And you can do things like make that, so if you're doing the Chinese practice, you can think of that person in your mind and generate compassion for them, and also make the aspiration that through the merit of your practice, that whatever they're suffering, whatever struggles they're going through, will be completely resolved. And that by kind of connecting your prayers with the blessings of Chenrezig, that might happen swiftly, strongly, that can really take place. And like you said, that our nature is the same as Chenrezig's nature, the same as all the Buddhas. However, we're still trying to undo all of our aspirations. So if we can kind of align ourselves with the Buddhas, then when we make these aspirations, maybe they'll be more effective or more powerful. So I think we can always do that. If we're not sure what to say to someone, if they're kind of in a place where maybe they might misinterpret what we say, maybe directing prayers is the best way, is a safe way to go about it, at least.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, maybe it is a little bit difficult for us to think of any particular unpleasant experience we can try to take onto the path. But at least hearing these examples can maybe kind of remind us that even something very negative might be an opportunity to generate more compassion, or more patience, or more understanding, rather than just acting out against them or expressing the dislike for the situation. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Didn't have to. Didn't have to. Just wanna say
Yeah.
Sometimes in my experience,
Oh, I think you want to use the mic.
Jeff?
sometimes in my experience, like I've, in the past, I've just done stupid things and, I've faced the consequences. Thankfully, they weren't that bad, but also kind of being in situations which are not good, kind of being around people who are not, let's say, the best and the most positive inspiring people. Later on, you begin to see, and if you genuinely try to get to know them on like a human level, you can kind of, for me, that's how I developed like compassion. So for instance, for some people who seem to be the brunt of most of people's scorn, those who distaste homeless, or let's say, people who are mean. For instance, like how I am able to now try to look at them and see that, okay, maybe they're just acting out all that meanness and all that crudeness that they have been going through their whole lives. And so it's like no wonder why they're acting like that now, because they've been perpetuating it, habituating it. But as far as I see, deep down they do have good intention, like every single one. And that, but just the circumstances and the situations have not been conducive for bringing that about. And then to just like be able to, for me personally to go through that and then to be able to empathize with them, that gives me like a real amount of compassion compared to, let's say, being honest, like if I don't know someone and they're very sick, yes, I feel bad, but it's like an abstract compassion, but for instance, it's so much more immediate. Like if you've been through that, or if like, someone that's through that. So in a way, it's like experiencing that for yourself or having that come close. That suffering is really actually what helps me build compassion. And I think that may be a great way. That's how I see that people who have suffered a lot have tremendous compassion, like tremendous compassion. Like most of us can't really like see that, or it takes a long time to see that.
Thank you. Yeah, those are really great reflections. Like you said, when you see people suffering in a way that you yourself have, that helps to give rise to empathy, and that compassion for them feels really strong. It doesn't feel like detached or cold. It feels very much like alive and strong.
What about when compassion is painful?
I mean, I think, wouldn't it be, do you mean painful because you feel so sorry for what they're going through?
And in perhaps a way identify with it, or just that it's like, it's so painful to observe, you have to turn away. You can't offer, because it's too painful to connect with it at an emotional level, and you just keep walking, or you turn away, or you pretend, you didn't see it, you don't know the person, or that suffering can create pain in the person who's observing it, to prevent compassion from blossoming. I've experienced that. And that's painful. I mean, just, how could, but it's like, it's all I can do.
Yeah, I mean, I hope this doesn't sound right, but the world is full of suffering.
Yeah.
Intense suffering, lots of suffering. And so it is hard to face that. Sometimes it seems overwhelming. And maybe we're not able to do something in that moment. But maybe we can gather ourselves and think about something we could do. Or if nothing else, we can pray for that person. And maybe if we think about it, there may be something we could do to try to help them, which wouldn't kind of trigger us too much. There's some way that we can help.
Would would an Oman Panyon at a time like that, if that's all to offer?
Yeah, Oman
Yeah.
is very good. Yeah. Yeah, you can do that. You can recite the Oman Panyon prayer and direct love towards them and to wish that whatever is causing their suffering be relieved. Yeah. And whenever you do something meritorious, you can dedicate the merit to that person. Because sometimes people experience suffering also because, like, they don't engage in a lot of meritorious activity. And so they're not really going to experience the fruits of anything meritorious. And so since they have a lack of that, maybe you could dedicate what you have. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you all. There is a wonderful aspiration prayer composed by Kunzang Palchen Ling that is, in particular, an aspiration for mind training. I think it would be good if we recited it together. You can find it in the handout. It's called The Blissful Path to the Ocean of Bodhicitta. And mind you, Kunzang Palchen Ling calls this a brief prayer to give you a sense of what is considered brief and what is considered long in the Tibetan tradition. So you'll either find this at the bottom of the second page or at the top of the third. I tried to improve the formatting, but some I printed and kind of got caught up a little, but it's all there. So again, I'll read the title and then we can all recite it together, starting at the truth. So here it is: The Blissful Path to the Ocean of Bodhicitta, a brief prayer of aspiration for mind training by Kunzang Palchen Ling. Ready? By the truth of the perfect mind of awakening, generated by the Supreme Noble Lord Avalokiteshvara, and all of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, may the Supreme Mind of Bodhicitta be born in thee and in all other beings as limitless space. May the causes and effects of beings suffering, their involvement with the 5 poisons and painful experiences in the 6 classes all ripen on me. To them all, as limitless space, I offer the 6 perfections in my own mind and source of virtue, free from the 5 poisons. May all the realms of samsara's 6 classes be emptied, and may everyone attain the level of Avalokiteshvara in his 6 sublime families and with 6 types of wisdom. May all disease, famine, belligerence, wrong use, impairments, transgressions, downfalls, harmful actions, self-cherishing, obstacles, harmful influences, and impediments all ripen on me and me alone. And to all these beings who are as limitless as space, I dedicate long life, glory, wealth, happiness, power, experience, realization, and knowing, loving wisdom. May they all, through supreme enlightened actions, attain the level of the most splendid noble one. In short, may all the causes and effects of egotism and self-cherishing ripen on me, and may all beings gain the wealth of benefit and happiness, and realize the meaning of emptiness and compassion. May all beings, especially those who harm me, or who have developed a negative connection, through seeing, hearing, thinking of, or encountering me, purify their obscurations, enter the path to enlightenment, and attain awakening straight away. May I take the place of those experiencing the cause and effect of unbearable, extremely negative actions, and may they all purify obscurations, and be born in the realms of perfect bliss. For the sake of all, but especially those who harm me, may I remain only in the lower realms, and may all beings, my very own mothers, escape samsara's ocean to reach liberation's shore. The only basis for bodhicitta, kind enemies and harmful foes, for your sake, I shall gladly give away my body and my life. May you be benefited. When I attain complete enlightenment, may you become the first in my circle, and just like the 5 original disciples, attain omniscience there and then. From now until I attain enlightenment, may I never be apart from you who do me harm. And with calm, untroubled view and conduct, may we set out together on the path to enlightenment. May those who see me, hear me, or think of me, and also those who merely hear my name, or are simply touched by the same breath of wind, discard their obscurations and enter the way of peace. All beings are my own parents, as limitless as space, so how could I ever feel hostility towards them, wishing only to repay their kindness and act gently? May I bring them all at once to enlightenment. May beings never be harmed on my account, whether directly or indirectly, and through bringing them only benefit and happiness, may I lead them all to the state of perfect bliss. In each and every instant, may all limitless beings with skill and the means of liberation and the force of compassion become just like Avalokitesvara, Manjushri, and Vajrapani, the Lord of Secrets. May those who suffer and are difficult to tame receive special loving care and guidance, and may the compassionate prayers and aspirations of the Supreme Sage and the Lotus form come true. In the wisdom space of the equality of self and other, through the dawning of emptiness and compassion's power, just so the benefit of others may be secured, may this prayer of aspiration swiftly be fulfilled. Thank you for reading that with me. What a powerful aspiration, right? Really impressive, really inspiring. Why do you think Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche entitled this, The Blissful Path to the Ocean of Bodhicitta, a brief prayer of aspiration for mind training? In what way is this training our mind? Any thoughts? How do you feel this is trying to train your mind?
Shock and awe.
I think that this helps to train our mind to help develop the 2 kinds of bodhicitta, and to help us focus on this life and the improvements we can make in this life, and then how we can look towards our future lives and what purpose we can serve in those while we're in this life. So I think that may sound confusing the way I said it, but I think in my mind, it reinforces all points that you brought up today. Yeah. So basically, expectations, the expectations we have in this moment, and then the expectations we may have about practicing Dharma in this life, and then if we can conceive of otherwise, what that might be like, and then benefiting and trying to absorb the examples of the great masters who have come to great realization and can see the room that we're bumping around in. So maybe there's like gradual, kind of like your wheel that you gave us, which is really much appreciated, that we can gradually start to become aware of other parts of the room of our life that we're kind of bumping around in. And then also realize that perhaps there is the boundaries that we think about of the room that we're in are not as we expect. They may be more expansive, and that our role now in this life also has an impact on others in this life and perhaps other lives. So that we may be part of a relay race, but we may not be running the race as we expect of ourselves or ourselves in the next lifetime. It may be something different that goes beyond our expectations.
Yeah, and in a positive way. Sounds
Yeah, in a positive way, exactly. So it's not too scary, right?
Right. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we can be more expansive. We can be capable of more than we think we can. And as you mentioned, just to clarify, the two kinds of bodhicitta, for those who are wondering, aspirational and applicational. The aspirational bodhicitta is the wish to attain enlightenment, to free all beings from suffering, and to establish them in Buddhahood. That's the aspiration. And the application is whatever you do towards that. That's the actual action and activity. But the aspiration, of course, precedes the action. So that's necessary and it's very important. Both are necessary. Or hopefully the second one happens. It's the plan.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing, which kind of goes back to your previous question, and that was, I find like the materials that you're handing out can be taken with us, and also can be used when we encounter like really stressful situations.
Right.
So I had some recently, or maybe about a month or two ago, I went to the emergency room, and I didn't really want to go, but I went, and I spent, I think, 10 hours there. But it was enough time for me to, I also brought some of my Dharma materials.
Good.
And as I was watching the situation unfold, because I had a lot of time to spend there was a lot of suffering going on, but at the same time I had things with me that I could read. And then I remembered some of the prayers from my practice, and that was super helpful.
That's great.
Thank you.
Well, here are some of my thoughts. I, for one, notice a slight discomfort when we recite some of the verses in this aspiration, like, may the causes and effects of being suffering, their involvement with the 5 poisons and painful experiences in the 6 classes, all ripen on me. I notice my sense of self-cherishing tightening up and feeling threatened and not wanting to suffer. I want to escape suffering, not take on more suffering. That's typically our habit. So when we recite prayers like this, it can help to give us more courage, even if it's kind of fake courage, even if we're borrowing the courage of Dilbo Khyentse Rinpoche, and we're kind of piggybacking on the courage he's able to really display for us. We can get a sense of what it might feel like if we ourselves could possess that amount of courage. And of course, the ripening of all beings' negative karma won't take place upon me, but perhaps through the force of great compassion, we could still help to relieve beings' suffering. Even the thought to do so can help, as I mentioned. When people do tonglen, the give and take practice where we give our wellness and take other people's sickness, sometimes those practitioners worry that they might become sick. But that isn't the case. The point, again, is to strengthen our compassion and to weaken our habit to cherish the self. And doing this will make us more apt to help whenever we can, to help others whenever we can. Likewise, reading courageous aspiration prayers like this can help us to deepen our resolve to continue to strengthen our compassion. So that's why I think it's wonderful to do these things. So that's where we might pause for this morning. Let's dedicate the merit of this morning by reading the closing prayers on page 7. Sonam di hamche sipani omne jana hamche ne kirana shibala trupali sive sole proa shu Gerwadi Gerwo Sonam Nishe Sozote Sonam Nishe Rejumbe Namakuti Tohashu Jamshio Sembire Moche Mate manam geyochi, gerwanam pame padam, gonge gondu gawashu, semchen kamche gedanem gyuchi, Yellow kamche kaku no Jamshu Sempa Kanda Sashuha Leda Kunji Mola Lua Shu Samchen Rikki Susin Tampe Yalun Dusha Thank you. So there's a lunch here downstairs, and I'll see you again at 2 this afternoon. Will we turn the live stream off? Is it? Is it off? Okay, thank you. Alright. Great, then I'll see you guys downstairs. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. What's that?
Andrea just told me to if you have questions for me.
Yeah.
So you begin a new stream with there's 4 sessions on it, right?
Yeah.
And you begin a new one. It just ended. I would that. Okay.
This is useful when you're first beginning to come down with something.
Oh, okay,
It really is.
thank you.
Try it out.
Sure.
Are you still nursing?
No,
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a problem.
yeah,